When it comes to dojutsu in the Naruto series, the Rinnegan is the one that many fans will say is easily one of the most powerful, and depending on who is actually using the Rinnegan, it's easily the most powerful in existence. However, what if Naruto Uzumaki had been given the Rinnegan by Nagato after the end of the Pain arc? In parts 1 and 2, we looked at how this affected the events leading up to the end of the Naruto manga and the time that takes place between the Naruto manga's ending and the start of Boruto Naruto Next Generations in part 1 and 2 respectively. However, in part 3, we're going to take a look at things even further into the Boruto timeline. Obviously, if you've not seen part 1 or part 2, then I highly recommend doing so before checking out this video. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get to part 3 of this finale of this series. Picking things up right where the last installment left off, Naruto led a battle against Momoshiki and Konoha, with the major change being that the battle never actually makes it to Momoshiki's dimension. Instead, Sasuke joins Naruto in the battle, with Sasuke in this timeline only having his EMS, albeit this version of Sasuke is still very skilled when it comes to battle, but he lacks the overwhelming destructive power and hacks that his Rinnegan gave him in the original Naruto timeline. Where a major change occurred is that Sasuke ended up being the one who handed down the finishing blow on Momoshiki, and Momoshiki chose to give Sasuke the Karma Seal. I don't have to tell you guys, but this changes absolutely everything. So in the aftermath of this battle, Sasuke and Naruto will be at loss for words as to who these foreign, alien, white-skinned invaders actually were. In this timeline, they never fought against Kaguya due to Kaguya never being revived, and neither of them was given the power up by the Sage of Six Paths directly, so they don't know about the Otsutsuki clan. However, having 2 dead Otsutsuki clan members at its disposal and seeing how dangerous that Momoshiki was, I believe that Naruto would make a very interesting decision. Naruto would reason that a shinobi's body leaves behind many secrets. He figured that these bodies would give him the answers if they figured out where exactly they needed to look to find out who or what these creatures actually were. Naruto have the scientists in Konoha look at the remains of Urashiki or Kinshiki. In the days afterwards, Sasuke would come to Naruto with information that a seal has appeared on his hand. I believe that Naruto would tell Sasuke to monitor the mark and inform him if anything specific came of it. Naruto being Hokage would allow Sasuke to continue to be on probation, making the case that Sasuke risked his life to help defend the village and that a shinobi of Sasuke's skill is needed to help gain the clues about where these white-skinned invaders came from. Where a major change occurs, in my opinion, is going to be with Boruto Uzumaki. Due to the fact that Boruto was born way sooner than Sarada in this timeline, and Orochimaru never made Mitsuki from his cells, then the Team 7 that Boruto is a part of would be drastically different. Given that Boruto is viewed as one of the Academy's prodigies, I believe that he would be an even bigger standout due to his team likely being filled with fodder ninjas. Given that Sasuke would have been in prison a majority of Boruto's life, he wouldn't immediately think to ask Sasuke to train him. It's possible that upon hearing that Sasuke helped defend the village, fighting alongside Naruto, that Boruto does ask to be trained, especially if he learns that Sasuke was once a rival to Naruto. However, the issue here is how soon does Sasuke leave Konoha with the team to hunt down clues about where Momoshiki, Kinshiki, and Urashiki came from. In my opinion, due to the nature of the attack, I think that Sasuke would be dispatched within days, if not as soon as that Karma Seal appeared on his hand. If this happens, then Boruto never learns the Rasengan due to him not wanting to actually learn the Rasengan until Sasuke required him to learn it as a stipulation to be Sasuke's student. In the Boruto movie novel, it's very strongly implied that Boruto doesn't seem too keen on learning a jutsu made famous by his father, which is funny given the fact that Boruto does use shadow clones. This ultimately means that Boruto never makes the Vanishing Rasengan, and the events of the Mujina Bandits arc, this is where a major change occurs. Boruto would have a drastically different character since he never actually trained under Sasuke. This means that Boruto is still the character that Masashi Kishimoto envisioned him to be, being someone who doesn't value hard work and instead knows all the cheats and shortcuts to learn ninjutsu and solve his problems, and everything comes very easy to him. While it's very possible that Boruto being disqualified from the Chunin exams makes him start to see the value of hard work, I don't see him making a full 180-degree turn like he did originally. And in fact, if we're looking at who Boruto have on his team, I don't think Boruto even makes it past the first exam test. Now, given the fact that Boruto is not obsessed with Sasuke and Sasuke being in prison for most of Boruto's life, this would mean that there will be no Sasuke ninja card for Boruto to fanboy over. ever. This means that Tento never has a card that Boruto's obsessed with attaining, and Boruto's team of fodder, likely if they're even skilled enough, they go on their B-rank mission with Konoha. Now this is where the major change occurs. Tento would ultimately have his brains eaten by Shojoji, who in turn would eat the brains of the feudal lord. This means that Shojoji is now the one running the Land of Fire. However, while he would be able to further the agenda of the Mujin bandits, he'd have to be very careful. If he did anything super drastic, like drastically cutting Konoha's military budget any further than what Naruto and the feudal lord agreed upon, or if Naruto ever has any type of an inkling of the evil nature lurking inside of the feudal lord, then this is where things are going to get really interesting. The best case for this to happen would be during the events of the Shikamaru Shinden novel, when Naruto relies on the feudal lord to prevent a war from breaking out between the Cloud Village and the Rock Village, with the Mist Village getting involved as well, which I've covered in another couple of videos that I highly recommend checking out if you want the full story behind that. Now instead, I believe that Shojoji is arrogant enough to think that he can trick Naruto during all of this chaos and turn down Naruto's request to intervene behind the scenes to prevent war. It will be then that I think that Naruto, who had already met with the feudal lord on numerous occasions over the years, would notice the change in Ikkyo. Kurama would be able to confirm that there was something wrong with Ikkyo, and the battle between Hokage Naruto and Shojoji would occur. Now I know somebody's like, damn, that's not much of a battle right there, but hold on a second. So I think that Naruto would ask him his true identity, and if Naruto doesn't summon the King of Hell right away and question him, potentially killing Shojoji if he answers wrong, I could see Naruto shoving a Rasengan down Shojoji's throat the moment that he tried to fight him, or Naruto could go for the effective method and the more calculated method, which is using the human path to rip out his soul, drag Shojoji's body back to Konoha, then place his soul back in his body, which we do know can happen, and then he would have Ibiki and Sai interrogate Shojoji. In any case, Naruto would learn of the death of the feudal lord, and this means that the outer members of Kar can place a new feudal lord in place, one that they can control. However, due to not knowing the full nature of Kara's schemes, in the interview where Kodachi talked about the feudal lord and Naruto being at risk due to the outer members of Kara having influence in the feudal lord circle, I'm not going to take things too far in this direction. However, I am going to use some of the information that Kodachi talked about in the interview for this. So the Kara approved feudal lord would be able to allow the outer members of Kara to assemble even further in the Land of Fire and continue the underground drug trade, exploiting the drugs created from the medicines that were created in conjunction with the new technology. Like Kodachi stated in the video that I mentioned earlier, Kar would be able to run drugs through the Land of Fire without any type of issue. This does lead to a really interesting problem. In the Shikamaru novel, war was very certain to break out, with Naruto stopping Shikamaru from killing the Tsuchikage and potentially even killing the Mizukage, given the fact that they had an alliance. With no real answer to stop any type of a war, I believe that Naruto would have to pull a boss move, trapping the Raikage and the Tsuchikage in a room, forcing them to come to an agreement that would be able to prevent war. However, doing so would fracture the Shinobi Alliance at this point and potentially threaten war between the nations. The only saving grace in all this is Naruto's Talk no Jutsu from the Book of Uzumaki, verse 3, chapter 4, but given how dire the situation is, I believe that there's a 50-50 shot that it works. Assuming that war is averted and there aren't any major feelings of ill will towards one another, another major change that occurs is going to be Naruto's fight with Boruto. Boruto, point blank period, does not land one single attack on Naruto in this fight, and Naruto would have to look for an excuse to use his ninja weapon tool to fight Boruto in order to gather data. Sasuke being out of the village means that Boruto storms off, all pissed off that his father cheated, and doesn't have his mind changed until he reunites with Sumire in the scientific ninja weapons text department. This is where a really major change occurs. Konoha still proves to be utterly useless in the Owl fight, at least initially, but with Boruto having two fodder teammates, I believe that Boruto does get dragged down as he fights against Owl, and instead Boruto will have to coordinate his attacks with the injured Konoha, and the fight will be won with an extremely high grade of difficulty, with Boruto and Konoha being injured and exhausting a lot more chakra than they did originally. finale. It would be then that stepping out of the shadows would arrive Kashin Koji. Koji would quickly kill Ao and proceed to fight Team Konohamaru. The two fodder ninja are likely to pass out when Kashin Koji uses his sealing jutsu, because after all, when you got a team full of Yamchas and Dinkies, what exactly do you expect to happen? Now, Konohamaru would be forced to break the seal like he did originally. However, given the fact that he's in worse shape and he's expended even more chakra, it's likely that Koji's Rasengan clash either blows off Konohamaru's arm or it outright kills him. However, I don't think that that's the case. I'm gonna give Konohamaru more credit than that. Instead, by the skin of his teeth, Konohamaru manages to survive the Rasengan battle. However, instead, when Kashin Koji uses the Purgatory Flames, it would outright kill him, given the fact that Boruto wouldn't have the Karma Seal to save Konohamaru. It would be at this point that Kashin Koji would have to make a decision. It's very strongly implied in the manga that he spared Boruto and Team 7 because he saw that Boruto had karma, but he doesn't have the same incentive to do so here. I do believe that Kashin Koji would find it himself to spare Team 7 after leaving Konohamaru's burning corpse. The only reason I don't want to go so far as to say that Kashin Koji wouldn't drop the seal after he's further away from Team Konohamaru and do something as drastic as killing them is Kashin Koji's character still being explored. However, there is evidence to suggest that if Mitsuki hadn't stopped Sarada, then Koji would have killed her, and he flat out stated the only reason Team 7 was alive is because they gave him interesting info, which we know is Boruto having the Karma Seal. Now, this is where yet another major change occurs. Mitsuki never being on the team, and with Konohamaru being dead, Boruto's encounter with Kawaki is a lot less likely to happen, but I still think that it does occur. Mitsuki was the one who thought to run off and investigate, which led to them finding Kawaki. And this is where we're going to bring part 3 to a close. Part 4 will be coming out next week if we can get this video to 1,000 likes, and I want to end things off by asking you guys. I want to give you guys a what if question. So I'm going to let you guys choose the scenario of where things progress next. I have the ending of the what if, it's already set in stone, but this scene right here could alter in a small way what happens for the finale of this what if franchise for this scenario. So up in the upper right hand corner, or if you're on your mobile device, you should be able to press onto your screen and see a little white button with an eye in the middle. So those are the info cards. So in the info cards, I'm gonna leave a poll for you guys, and I want to know, do you guys think that Boruto runs off and investigates as he hears the sounds of Kawaki with this battle against Kara, or do you think that Boruto runs off because Konohamaru has essentially been killed on this mission, and the best thing to do is to not challenge Kashin Koji because Boruto doesn't stand a chance against him in battle? Let me know what you guys think happens at that point. Like I said, the ending is already in effect, and choosing this poll is going to alter the ending to a small point, but it's not going to be to the point where the story itself is going to have a positive or negative impact. The ending is already set. It's just how we get there will be a little different. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.